In 1645, 7 days before his death, a samurai who had never lost a single duel climbed into a cave and began writing. He had killed his first opponent at 13. He had fought 61 duels and won every one. He had studied painting, calligraphy, sculpture, and meditation for decades after laying down his sword. And in those final 7 days, alone in a cave called Reigando, he distilled everything he had learned into 21 sentences. Not a book, not a philosophy system. 21 rules, written for his student, on how to walk through life alone. Most people have never heard of them, but once you do, you cannot unhear them. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. Born around 1584 in what is now Hyogo Prefecture in Japan, he was orphaned young, raised by relatives, and already killing grown men in combat before most children learn to read. His first duel was at 13, against a trained adult swordsman named Arima Kihei. Musashi won. By the time he was 30, he had walked across Japan fighting anyone who would face him, developing a revolutionary two-sword style that no opponent could predict. But this is not a video about his duels. After his final battle at the age of 29, something shifted. Musashi stopped seeking opponents and started seeking understanding. He retreated from the world for long stretches. He studied ink painting under master artists. He crafted tea utensils and garden sculptures. He wrote The Book of 5 Rings, one of the most influential texts on strategy ever written, still studied in military academies and business schools to this day. And then, as stomach cancer slowly consumed him, he climbed into the Reigando cave outside Kumamoto. He had already given his swords away. He had already said goodbye to his adopted sons. He had nothing left to prove, and nothing left to lose. He sat down. He picked up his brush, and in 7 days, he wrote the Dokkodo, The Way of Walking Alone. 21 rules, each one a single sentence. Together, they are the most concentrated distillation of a warrior's lifetime that has ever been written. They were addressed to his student, Terao Magonojo, with one instruction: live by these, nothing else. The Dokkodo is not a self-help book. It is not a list of tips. It is a dying man's attempt to strip every unnecessary thing from his understanding of life and hand what remains to someone he cared about. Each rule was tested across 60 years of combat, solitude, art, and meditation. None of them are theoretical. All of them were purchased with pain. Modern psychology has a term for what Musashi was doing in that cave. It is called a life review. Research published in the Gerontologist found that when people approaching death engage in structured life review, they experience increased self-acceptance, reduced depression, and what researchers call ego integrity, a sense that their life made sense as a whole. Musashi did not know this term. He simply did the work. What makes the Dokkodo different from every other set of rules is what it asks you to give up. Musashi does not tell you what to pursue. He tells you what to release, and that distinction changes everything. Let me show you what I mean. The 5th rule of the Dokkodo translates roughly to, do not let yourself be guided by the feeling of lust or love. This is not a rejection of love. This is a warning about being controlled by it. A 2013 study from the University of Kentucky found that romantic attachment can impair executive function, the brain's ability to plan, focus, and make rational decisions. When people are in the grip of intense romantic desire, their cognitive resources are literally hijacked. They make decisions they would never make in a calm state. Musashi had watched warriors die because they were thinking about someone waiting at home. He had watched strategists make catastrophic errors because passion clouded their judgment. His rule is not, never love. His rule is, never let love steer. You steer. Love rides beside you. This is the difference between a man who built his life around discipline and someone who wrote advice from a comfortable desk. Musashi paid for every rule in blood. Rule 14. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. In an era of personal branding, self-promotion, and identity as currency, this sentence is almost offensive. But Musashi understood something that researchers at Stanford confirmed in 2019. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who practice what the researchers called self-distancing, the ability to view themselves from an outside perspective rather than being consumed by their own narrative, show measurably better emotional regulation, wiser reasoning, and less reactive decision-making. Musashi spent decades alone. He had no audience to perform for, no followers to impress. And he discovered what Stanford would prove 400 years later. The less you center yourself in your own story, the more clearly you see reality. Think lightly of yourself, deeply of the world. This is not humility as weakness. This is humility as a tactical advantage. The 17th rule is the one most people remember. Do not fear death. This is easy to dismiss as warrior bravado. It is not. Terror management theory, developed by psychologists Sheldon Solomon, Jeff Greenberg, and Tom Pazinski, based on the work of Ernest Becker, has produced over 500 published studies showing that when people are reminded of their own mortality, they either collapse into anxiety and defensiveness, or they experience what the researchers call death reflection. Those in the second group become more generous, more intentional, and more focused on what actually matters. Musashi was writing from the second group. He was dying. He knew it. And instead of panic, he produced the clearest thinking of his life. The rule is not be brave about death. The rule is let the awareness of death make you precise about life. Every warrior tradition on earth has arrived at this same conclusion independently. The Stoics called it memento mori. The Tibetans built an entire meditation practice around it. Musashi said it in 6 words. The 21st rule, the final sentence Musashi ever wrote was, "Do not stray from the way." And Rule 17, which precedes the death rule, states, "Do not regret what you have done." These 2 rules operate as a pair. Together they form what psychologists call an internal locus of evaluation. Carl Rogers, the founder of humanistic psychology, defined this as the ability to trust your own standards of judgment rather than relying on external validation. People with a strong internal locus of evaluation make decisions based on their own values, accept the consequences, and do not waste energy on regret. Musashi had killed men. He had walked away from comfort repeatedly. He had chosen solitude over companionship for most of his adult life. And in that cave, he was telling his student, "The decisions you make from your own path are yours. Own them. Do not look back. Do not apologize for the road you chose to walk. Just keep walking it. That is the way." 7 days after he entered the Regondo cave, Musashi finished the Dokkodo. He rolled the scroll, tied it, and gave it to Terao Maganoho. He died shortly after. The exact date is recorded as June 13, 1645. The Dokkodo was not published. It was not marketed. It was not written for an audience. It was 21 sentences from a dying man to a student he trusted. And yet, nearly 400 years later, those sentences are still being read, studied, and debated by people who have never held a sword. That is the test of real insight. It does not need a platform. It does not need followers. It does not expire. If something is true at the edge of death, it is true everywhere. If you are still here, you are already different from the people who clicked away. Musashi spent 60 years learning what he wrote in 7 days. You just absorbed the core of it in a few minutes. But absorbing is not the same as living. Pick one rule, just one, the one that made you uncomfortable. That discomfort is information. It is pointing at the exact place in your life where you are not walking your own path. If this changed how you think about discipline, subscribe to this channel. Every Tuesday and Friday, I share stories like this. Real people, real psychology, no hype. I have linked every book that tells Musashi's full story in the description below. The Book of Five Rings is his masterwork on strategy. The Dokkodo is his final testament. Both are available in excellent translations. And if you want to hear the full 21 rules read without interruption, I will link that resource as well. Tell me in the comments, which rule hit you the hardest? The one about love, death, self-importance? I read every comment. Drop yours below. And if you want to understand the Japanese philosophy that a country used to rebuild itself from total destruction, watch my video on Kaizen next. Different philosophy, same culture, same obsession with precision. I will see you there.